Ruby is a language of careful balance. Its creator, Yukihiro Matsumoto, well known as Mats, blended parts of his favorite languages, Perl, Smalltalk, Eiffel, Ada and Lisp, to form a new language that balanced functional programming with imperative programming. Ruby is simple in appearance, but is very complex inside, just like our human body. The TIOBE index, which measures the growth of programming languages, ranks Ruby as number 9 among programming languages worldwide. Much of the growth is attributed to the popularity of software written in Ruby, particularly the Ruby on Rails web framework. Ruby is also totally free, not only free of charge, but also free to use, copy, modify and distribute. In Ruby, everything is an object. Every bit of information and code can be given their own properties and actions. Object-oriented programming calls properties by the name instance variables, and actions are known as methods. Ruby's pure object-oriented approach is most commonly demonstrated by a bit of code which applies an action to a number. In many languages, numbers and other primitive types are not objects. Ruby follows the influence of the Smalltalk language by giving methods and instance variables to all of its types. Ruby is seen as a flexible language since it allows its users to freely alter its parts. Essential parts of Ruby can be removed or redefined at will. Existing parts can be added upon. Ruby tries not to restrict the coder. For example, addition is performed with the plus operator, but if you would rather use the readable word plus, you could add such a method to Ruby's bulletin numeric class. Ruby's blocks are also seen as a source of great flexibility. A programmer can attach a closure to any method describing how that method should act. The closure is called a block and has become one of the most popular features for newcomers to Ruby from other imperative languages like PHP or Visual Basic. In the above code, the block is described inside the do-end construct. The map method applies the block to provide list of words. Many other methods in Ruby leave a hole open for a coder to write their own block to fill in the details of what that method should do. Unlike many object-oriented languages, Ruby features single inheritance only on purpose. But Ruby knows the concept of modules. Modules are a collection of methods. Classes can mix in a module and receive all its methods for free. For example, any class which implements the each method can mix in the enumerable module, which adds a pile of methods that use each for looping. While Ruby often uses very limited punctuation and usually prefers English keywords, some punctuation is used to decorate Ruby. Ruby needs no variable declarations. It uses simple naming conventions to denote the scope of variables. var could be local variable. @var is an instance variable. $var is a global variable. Ruby has a wealth of other features, among which are the following. Ruby has exception handling features like Java or Python to make it easy to handle errors. Ruby features a true mark and sweep garbage collector for all Ruby objects. No need to maintain reference counts in extension libraries. Writing C extensions in Ruby is easier than in Perl or Python, with a very elegant API for calling Ruby from C. This includes calls for embedding Ruby in software for use as a scripting language. A Swig interface is also available. Ruby can load extension libraries dynamically if an operating system allows. Ruby features operating system independent threading, thus For all platforms on which Ruby runs, you also have multi-threading, regardless of if the operating system supports it or not, even on MS-DOS. Ruby is highly portable. It is developed mostly on GNU Linux but works on many types of Unix, Mac OS X, Windows 95, 98, 2000 XP, and DOS, etc. Ruby is elegant, powerful, readable, and concise. Ruby code is elegant than PHP code as it uses a small amount of intuitive code to great effect. Ruby is more powerful because it's object-oriented and it uses dynamic typing. Almost everything in Ruby is done at runtime. Types of variables and expressions are determined at runtime, as are class and method definitions. You can even generate programs within programs and execute them. As it is imperative programming, no compilation is needed. You can edit and feed your program to the interpreter. Ruby is readable. The code comments itself. Therefore, it's so easy to understand the coding well. Ruby is a very expressive language. It uses less number of codes but provides high productivity. There are two main disadvantages in Ruby. Ruby is slow. It's slower than PHP for 2 times. Ruby is new. Not so many developers or customers use Ruby. Ruby has no common IDE or common application server. Similarities in PHP and Ruby. Ruby is dynamically typed like in PHP, so you don't need to worry about having to declare variables. There are classes and you can control access to them like in PHP 5, public, protected, and private. Some variables start with $sign like in PHP, but not all. There's eval. You can use string interpolating. There's heredocs. Ruby has exceptions like in PHP 5. There's a fairly large standard library. Arrays and hashes work like expected. True and false behave like in PHP, but null is called nil. Differences between PHP and Ruby. There's strong typing. You will need to call to_s, to_i, etc. to convert between strings, integers, and so on, instead of relying on the language to do it. Strings, numbers, arrays, hashes, etc. are objects. Parentheses are optional in method calls, except to clarify which parameters go to which method calls. Instead of naming conventions like underscores, the standard library and extensions are organized in modules and classes. Reflection is an inherent capability of objects. You don't need to use reflection classes like in PHP 5. Variables are references. There's no abstracted classes or interfaces. Hashes, arrays are not interchangeable. Only false and nil are false. 0, array, and quotations are all true in conditionals. Almost everything is a method call, even raise, which is throw in PHP.